Hi, Renee here. Hey, I'm here today to show you all the cards that I made from the Christmas Tags and More 6x6 Designer Series paper. And I took some notes this time to give you a little bit of an idea of how many cards I made and how much they all cost. Pretty much, it's kind of hard. So first I'll show you all the products that I used. So I used every single piece of the Christmas Tags and More paper. So I will throw up in the corner here just a quick picture of that paper pad, that paper pack. And last I looked, it was available in the last chance section of Stampin' Up's website. I don't know if there's any left, but feel free to check it out. I will have a link down below. And I know I don't really say this too much, but I am a demonstrator, just a hobby demonstrator. I do most of this just on my own and just to share it with you because I love to do it. But if you wanted to buy something and you wanted me to get the commission on it, that would be awesome. Just click up to find a demonstrator and then put my name in, Renee Price, and you should find me. And I would be very much appreciative of that. So with that said, these are the supplies that I used. I used the October 2024 stamp set from the Paper Pumpkin. I used the October 2025 stamp set from Paper Pumpkin. I used this Retired Reindeer Fun stamp set, which if you've watched me for any amount of time, you know that I use this thing constantly. So once you find a stamp set, hold on to it, use it over and over, get your money's worth out of it. I think I used Shepherd's Care. I'm pretty sure I did. I pulled it when I was getting ready to do the video. So Shepherd's Care, this one is still available the last I looked. It is a red rubber stamp, so that is going to be in the last chance section because they are getting rid of the red rubber stamps and going completely to photopolymer, which I'm totally cool with because I have a hard time with these stamps. They don't fit in my MISTI quite perfectly. I have to remove my stamp pad in there. And I can't see exactly where I'm stamping. So the ones that have text on them are especially hard. I really enjoy the photopolymer because you can see what you're doing. So, but this is a beautiful stamp set. I used an old, close to my heart stamp set called Holiday Trimmings. I used an old Paper Studio dotted embossing folder. Forgot for a second what those are called. I used this very old, I can't believe this thing isn't broken yet, Derice diagonal stripe. And then I used Forever Plaid from Stampin' Up. I believe this is still available. This is so great. I could do two backgrounds at the same time. I love these Stampin' Up embossing folders. They're really heavy duty and they're bigger. So you can do more at one time, which is great because cranking that, I think I'm going to have to break down someday and get one of those electric die cutting machines. But for right now, I'm still using the crank. So I like it when I can do more than one thing on a crank. So what I did was I used that paper pad that I told you about, which has 8 double-sided, or let's see, 8 each of 4 different double-sided. No, you know what? I'll link it. You can go look. It's got a bunch of paper. It also has 4 die cut sheets. I used every single one of the die cuts. I pulled in 16 pieces of solid color cardstock. I did keep track of that. And then I used 33 sheets of solid white cardstock to make my card bases. I can get 2 cards out of each piece of white cardstock. I added that all together and making 65 cards, that came out to 69 cents per card. Now you may say, all of this stuff cost you extra. And while that is true, I reuse all this stuff over and over and over again. But I wanted to do something. So let's just say these 3 large stamp sets. Let's just say I bought just these 3 large stamp sets just for these cards and no other cards. Once I added them together, the cards came out to $2.15 a piece. These aren't as expensive as you think. So with that all said, I bet you're wondering, where the heck are the cards? So I have them all in this little container from my scrap box. So I'm just going to start pulling out cards. Now, some cards I do have quite a few duplicates. So we're going to pull these out all at once because these are all duplicates, except for the ephemera that I used. So all of this ephemera was from the 6x6 paper pack. And then the Merry Christmas was from that paper pumpkin. I love it because it's chunky, it's big. And what I did is on the first one, I did some heat embossing for the sentiment to make it stand out a little bit. And I don't know if you're going to be able to tell, but it's like a sparkle. It didn't come out as well as I thought. So for all the rest, I just used a solid real red. So what I do to make my dye inks so that I can use them for stamping with, or for heat embossing, is I'll stamp with the color. Then, you have to use a stamp positioner for this kind of a process. So I use my Misty, stamp my Merry Christmas in the real red. And then what I do is I use my Versamark ink and I stamp again with the Versamark. That just puts the sticky glue ink over the top. Then I use clear embossing powder. I love to do it that way because I think it just gives it such a pretty look, and you can use any color you have in your stash. So that's how I made these, 8 cards. So love the way those came out. So we'll put those aside. Then, and I really didn't have any sort of sketch or anything like that. I just played with paper until I found something that looked nice together. Used all the papers the best I could. So here are these, and these are not heat embossed. These are just stamped. These, and I used some little bling I had left over from a paper pumpkin. That's just a little gold. Let's see if I can get it in the camera. A little gold piece of bling. And then these were really fun. These cards were cutouts from the paper, and then they had these ornaments that were the same shape, not exactly the same print, but the same shape with just a little tiny bit smaller. And so I just layered them on top of that card, and you can see the other print like coming out from behind, and I think it turned out really cute. So I was able to make 2 of those. And then this one I just layered together several pieces. There was a tree, and then all these presents were separate. And then these 2 flagged pieces were also from the die cut sheet. And I love the way these came out. So there were 8 more. I think you'll be seeing a theme of 8 cards from each type of paper and design. So let's set this so that I can get to these a little better. And okay, I only have 4 of those. They must have got mixed in. I probably should have pulled these all out ahead of time. So, oh, you know why? You know why I only have 4 of these? This was the other side of the paper from these cutouts. That's why I only have 4 of the greens, but I'm going to go ahead and take these all out so I can get rid of that box. So I'll show you the 4 that I made from the other side of those cutouts. And these all are very similar. The candy canes are a little bit different. These ones were already printed completely with 2 candy canes and the bow. These were 2 separate candy canes, and so I cut a bow out of the reindeer, reindeer fun stamp and die set, and cut out that bow to put on there and created the same look because I really loved it. Now these ovals behind are actually vellum, and this was the first one that I made. And in person you can see the difference because the vellum is right here, but then I took the next 3 and I used an alcohol marker on the back of the vellum and just gave it a little bit of color. And I like the way that that stood out a whole lot better. And I really like the streaky look. This one I did it by doing the alcohol marker and then using some of the blender pen to remove some of the green and give it that stripy look. So I like the way that those turned out. So this time there was only 4. Then let's see, I used a bunch of scraps. So when I was taking these sheets right here with the really pretty plaid, these were 6x6. So I had to cut some down off the bottom and some off the side. And I ended up with all these strips. And so I just took all the strips and started making cards with the strips. So here are these ones. This right here is an old die from my stash. And I love the way these came out. And then for the longer skinny strips, I did these two. And that's more from the die sheet. And then I love the way, oh, and I also forgot to tell you, this background is that Forever Plaid embossing folder. Hopefully you'll be able to see that texture. It's really pretty in person. So then I had, you know, a bunch of little squares left from some other cards and some little presents left. And then let's see, these ones were some more of the pieces that I had left from cutting down some backgrounds. And this wreath was from the Reindeer Fun. So I made several of those. Now I had made them all with this white, and I had printed these little sentiment strips. They're kind of wide, but strips. And I thought, I wonder what it would look like if I colored it to make it look like this brown background. And so first I did this one, and all I did was lay this white down on the stamp pad. And I'm trying to remember if that was crumb cake. No, it's not crumb cake because it's not dark enough. Might be pecan pie. Laid it down and just kind of touched it a little bit and gave it that mottled look. And then the next one, I laid it down and I used my, here we go, this little roller guy, and gave it a lot more ink. I think I ended up liking the white more because it picked up the white border from the card. So tell me what you think. Anyway, here's some more in another design. These all four are the same. Oh, and this ribbon that I used to hang the wreath off of this little card, this little square. That's just some old ribbon I had in my stash. Nothing special. You can probably find it at Hobby Lobby or wherever. So then all of these cards are exactly the same. This one I used the dot embossing folder on the back, and then a bunch of garden green paper, one of the die cuts, and then this is from the Shepherd's Care, and just a couple of simple circle dies that I had in my stash. So that's how I use this, and I just used different die cuts from the die cut sheet. So they all are very similar, but the die cuts are a little bit different. I think I like this one the best. I think it has the best balance of color. Then I used, let's see, this was another one of the sheets, sort of like this, that already had some printing, because this is all printed on the background. And so I just cut it on my just my paper cutter to make it fit centered. And cute little stamp from last year's Christmas paper pumpkin box. And I made, excuse me, 8 that are exactly the same. Excuse me. And this one you can't see, I'm sure, very well, but the background I embossed with that diagonal embossing folder just to give it a little bit of interest on that background. So it turned out really, really cute. Oh, and I forgot to show you, inside, every one of them has this same stamp, May All Your Days Be Full of Cheer. I don't usually stamp the inside of my cards, except Christmas cards. And then we had 4 of these. I was trying to find a way to use these pieces that I had left over after I cut these down, and I found that I could make them fit just barely diagonal. So there's 2 diagonal pieces, and then this was the back of another paper. These were some more of the cutouts, and these I heat embossed in white, which I don't do that a lot. Use a lot of the, let's see, do I have it here? I don't have it here. Use a lot of the powder to make sure you don't get that white sticking elsewhere. Another way to make white is to use a white pigment ink and then put clear embossing powder over the top of it. So, but that's these 4. So love the way these came out. I had some more of those die cuts. This wreath was also a die cut, and then I just used a basic circle. And there's some green rustic ribbon that was from Close to My Heart, but long, long, long gone. I think I used the last of it. So there's that. And then we've got these 8. These are my last 8. And I put a little bit of stickles on the top of these ornaments to give them a little bit of sparkle and shine. And I did a couple of those. And then I did a couple with these little stockings. Again, I did the stickles at the top to give the tops of the, I wonder if that's really going to show very well. Maybe it picked it up. And then I did a couple of Christmas trees with a little piece of bling for the top of the tree. And then 2 of the ones with the candy canes. So altogether, that is 65 cards out of the Merry Tags and More. This is what the tag looked like. Merry Tags and More 6x6 mix and match specialty designer series paper. There were 36 sheets of paper. So I made 65 cards out of 36 sheets of 6x6 paper. If you're interested in this, like I said, last time I looked, it's in the last chance section. So it's number 165907 if you're looking for it. And with that, I'm going to let you go. If you have any questions about any of these cards that I made, please let me know, and I would be happy to answer those questions. And I hope you're having a wonderful holiday, and I will see you again in my next video. Thanks, and have a wonderful day. Bye.